Hello, everyone. I'm Mr.Graveveil. I want to tell you a horror story. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and get ready for a story you've never heard before. I used to think I just wasn't sleeping well. Deadlines, late nights, too much caffeine, the usual excuses we give ourselves. But then something happened that made me realize this wasn't about being tired. It was something else entirely. The first time it happened, I remember waking up but not being able to move. Not a twitch. My eyes were open, but my body was frozen in place. I wasn't dreaming. I could see the glow from the hallway light under my bedroom door. I could hear the fridge humming in the kitchen. Everything around me was real, except me. There was a pressure on my chest. Not heavy, just wrong. Like someone had placed a cold, flat hand right in the center of my sternum. I couldn't scream. I couldn't even breathe right. My lungs worked, but the air felt stuck halfway. After maybe a minute, or what felt like a minute, I could finally move again. I sat up gasping like I'd been drowning in my own bed. I laughed it off, even Googled it. Sleep paralysis, the internet said. Harmless, they said. I believed that for exactly one night, because the next time it happened, I wasn't alone in the room. It didn't take long to notice the pattern. Every episode, every single one happened at 3 a.m. Not 2:59, not 3:01, exactly 3. I checked my phone after each one, screen glowing back at me with that time like it was mocking me. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Maybe I was just waking up around then anyway. But then I started dreading the moment. I'd lie in bed, staring at the red digits on my alarm clock, watching it tick closer to 3. Some nights I wouldn't even fall asleep, just lay there sweating, waiting for it. And when I did sleep, it happened again. But now it wasn't just the paralysis. I started noticing something else. A shape. At first, it was subtle. Just a darker spot in the room, near the corner by the closet. I convinced myself it was my jacket hanging off the chair, or maybe the shadows playing tricks. But it didn't go away. It didn't change. It watched. Each time I woke up frozen, that thing was there, unmoving, like it had always been there, even when I was awake and didn't notice. I could feel it, even with my eyes shut. The kind of feeling that makes your skin tighten and your heartbeat slow out of fear, not calm. The worst part? I never heard it arrive. By the 4th or 5th time, I stopped pretending it was in my head. The shape wasn't just a shadow anymore. It had weight, presence. It wasn't content staying in the corner. Each night, it got a little closer. 1 step, then 2. Always stopping just outside the reach of my vision. But I felt it, like someone was standing beside the bed, waiting for something. The air in the room would change, heavier, thicker. And there was a sound now, soft like fabric, brushing against itself, slow and steady, timed with my shallow breathing. Then came the bruises. I woke up one morning with a dull ache in my ribs, pulled up my shirt and found a yellowish mark, as if someone had pressed their fingers into me and held them there. The next day, another one, near my shoulder. I tried to blame it on restless sleep, bumping into things, maybe even sleepwalking. But the marks didn't match those explanations. Too precise, too deliberate. One night, I felt the mattress sink. I couldn't move, couldn't scream, just lay there paralyzed while the bed dipped beside me. The weight settled next to my thigh, then slowly closer. I felt cold air against my ear, like breath, but there was no sound. That was the first night I truly believed I might die in my sleep. That night felt wrong before I even closed my eyes. The room was too still, too silent. No cars outside, no pipes ticking, just dead quiet. I tried staying awake, lights on, TV, playing something mindless in the background. But exhaustion won. I slipped under. When I opened my eyes, I was already paralyzed. My body felt locked in ice. My ears rang with that high-pitched pressure that comes before a blackout. But I wasn't unconscious, not yet. It was there, not near the closet, not beside the bed, on the bed. The weight pressed into my legs. I felt something touch my calf, dragging upward, slow and intentional. My chest locked tighter. My vision tunneled, but I saw it. A figure crouched over me, head tilted as if studying my face. Its breath was wet and rhythmic. It didn't blink. I wanted to scream, to beg, to do anything, but there was no voice. Just tears welling in the corners of my eyes and the growing certainty that I wouldn't wake up this time. Then everything went black. I woke up hours later, drenched in sweat, heart pounding so hard it hurt. My phone was frozen at 3:07 a.m. I thought it was a glitch until I saw my stomach. 3 words were scratched into my skin. Not bleeding, but red and swollen, like they'd been carved lightly with something cold. I didn't want to read them, but I did. I moved out within a week, packed what I could, and left that apartment behind. I didn't even tell my friends the real reason. What was I supposed to say? That something invisible had followed me into my dreams and carved words into my body? The new place was quieter, smaller. I started new routines. No caffeine after 6. No screens before bed. White noise machine, lavender spray on the pillow, all of it. For a few nights, it worked. I slept dreamless and undisturbed until it returned. But this time, it didn't wait for 3. The first time it came back, it was 1:42 a.m. I remember because I had just turned over in bed when the paralysis hit like a switch being flipped. I was wide awake and then nothing. Frozen, no warning. No build-up. The figure didn't bother hiding in the corner. It was at the foot of my bed, closer than ever. And I wasn't asleep. I knew that for sure. I could hear my neighbor's music through the wall. I could smell the detergent on my sheets. I was fully awake and still couldn't move. That's when it hit me. This thing wasn't tied to the room, or the apartment, or even the hour. It was tied to me. And sometimes I wonder, if it can come when I'm awake, how do I know I'm not still dreaming? It started like most stories about sleep paralysis, small, terrifying moments that you try to explain away. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, completely frozen. My chest would tighten, my limbs dead weight, my eyes the only part of me that still felt alive. Sometimes I'd hear soft sounds, like creaking or whispering from inside the room. But my apartment was old. It made noises. I didn't panic, not at first. But then it kept happening. Night after night, the same cycle. Paralyzed. Trapped. A sense that something was near, just out of sight. I started to dread falling asleep. I'd leave lights on, TV playing, anything to keep my mind anchored to reality. And still, it came. I told myself it was stress, overwork, diet. I even saw a doctor. But when nothing changed, I started thinking maybe it wasn't about me. Maybe it was about the room, the space. That's when I decided to start recording myself. I bought a cheap indoor camera online, one with night vision and motion detection. I placed it on my desk, aimed straight at my bed. I told myself it was just for peace of mind, to prove there was nothing there. But a part of me already knew I wasn't going to like what I saw. The morning after the first recording, I didn't even want to check the footage. I hesitated with my finger over the play button, my stomach already tight. But I forced myself to watch. At first, it looked exactly how I expected. Me asleep, completely still, lying on my back. The timestamp showed 2:59 a.m., then 3 o'clock, then 3:01. I didn't move at all. My chest rose and fell slowly, like I was barely breathing. Then, around 3:03, something strange happened. The camera didn't glitch, not exactly, but the lighting shifted slightly, just for a second. Like a shadow had passed across the lens, fast but wide. A faint tapping sound followed, like metal brushing against drywall. It made no sense. I paused, rewound, played it again. The moment repeated. Same flicker of darkness, same sound. Then I noticed it, in the corner of the frame, behind the open door. For just 2 seconds, there was a shape, humanoid, still. Then the image dimmed slightly, like the night vision had dropped contrast for a moment. And when it cleared, the corner was empty. I checked the rest of the video, nothing more. But I kept coming back to that frame, that shape. It wasn't some coat or shadow trick. It was there, and it had been watching. I didn't sleep well that night. After what I saw in the footage, I almost didn't want to sleep again. But I was exhausted, physically and mentally. I told myself it was one weird coincidence. Maybe a camera glitch. Maybe my mind playing tricks. Still, I let it record again. That night, the paralysis came back stronger. I remember waking up and feeling like my body was encased in concrete. My eyes were open, locked onto the ceiling, but my breath was shallow and shaky. I could feel a presence near the bed, closer than before, closer than it ever had been. I don't remember falling back asleep, but I woke up in the morning, drenched in sweat, heart racing. My throat hurt like I'd been screaming, though I never made a sound. The footage told me the rest. At 3 a.m., the camera picked up motion. A tall figure stepped into frame, slowly, deliberately. It stopped right next to the bed, right next to me. It didn't move. It didn't look around. It just stood there. For 6 minutes. At 3:06, the figure vanished. No movement, no steps away. It just wasn't there anymore, like it blinked out of existence. And for those exact 6 minutes, I never moved once, not a twitch. That thing was watching me up close, and I couldn't even blink. I couldn't stop thinking about that last video. I watched it over and over, pausing at random seconds, hoping I'd imagined it. But I hadn't. It was there. It had stood right next to me, and I had done nothing because I couldn't. Still, I recorded again. But this time, something went wrong. When I tried to play back the footage the next morning, the file wouldn't open. It was labeled correctly, timestamped at 2:45 a.m., just like the others, but it was corrupted. Wouldn't load. Wouldn't scrub. Just a black screen. I tried different software, even used a recovery tool. Eventually, I got it to show one frame, just one. It was a close-up. Blurry, distorted by motion and darkness, but clearly taken from inches in front of the camera. And in that frame, something was looking directly at the lens. No eyes. Just a suggestion of a face, pale and too close. Whatever it was, it had moved toward the camera. It had known it was being recorded. I didn't remember anything from that night. No paralysis. No dream. But I woke up with marks. Thin, curved lines running across my ribs, like something had gripped me. Not deep enough to bleed, but enough to burn when I showered. And I knew what that meant. I hadn't just imagined being touched. After that night, I stopped pretending it was something I could control. I kept recording, but it wasn't about curiosity anymore. It was survival. I needed proof. Or maybe I needed a reason to believe I wasn't losing my mind. But something changed. It started happening when I was awake. Not fully paralyzed, not like before, but moments when I'd be sitting at my desk and suddenly feel cold air brush my neck, or hear a soft knock from inside the wall. Objects began to shift slightly. My keys wouldn't be where I left them. The door to the bedroom would creak open, even though I'd shut it tight. One night, I reviewed the footage from earlier that evening, before I even went to bed. I was brushing my teeth, just walking across the room. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. In the corner of the frame, for just 2 seconds, the figure moved. It wasn't standing still this time. It was walking toward the bed while I was awake. In the final recording I watched, I was lying in bed with my eyes wide open. I remember that night clearly. I wasn't paralyzed. I was fully conscious. But in the footage, the figure enters the frame, walks to my side, and bends down toward my face. And I didn't react at all. It started during one of the busiest stretches of my life. I was juggling 2 jobs, barely eating right, and surviving on caffeine and anxiety. At night, I'd collapse into bed, completely drained. But the moment I closed my eyes, my brain kept running like a machine that wouldn't shut off. I blamed it on stress. Everyone gets like this sometimes, right? But soon, something changed. I started waking up in the middle of the night, with my heart pounding and my body stiff. Not just stiff, paralyzed. I couldn't move my arms, my legs, not even my head. I could blink, I could breathe, but that was it. The rest of me was dead weight. The first time, I thought it was a dream. A vivid, messed up dream. But it kept happening. Some nights I'd lie there, wide awake but completely still, trying to scream and only managing a tiny wheeze. I'd hear the hum of my fridge down the hall, the creak of the walls cooling overnight, all the usual sounds of my apartment. But they felt different, like I was hearing them from underwater. Eventually, I'd snap out of it. My body would jolt, and I'd gasp like I'd been holding my breath. I always told myself, it's just stress, nothing more. But even then, something deep inside me wasn't so sure. I started to notice the clock. Every time I woke up like that, frozen, breath shallow, heart racing, it was the same. 3:17 a.m., not earlier, not later. Always 3:17. At first, I laughed it off. Coincidence, maybe. But after the 4th night in a row, I couldn't ignore it. I started checking the time obsessively. I even stopped setting alarms, just to make sure nothing was triggering it. Still, 3:17. There were no loud noises, no alarms, no nightmares pulling me out of sleep. Just this deep, crawling sense that something had brought me back to consciousness. Something I couldn't name. I began sleeping with the lamp on. Not the overhead light, just the little one by my bed. The soft glow made the room feel less oppressive. For a while, I thought it helped. But then I started waking up facing the foot of the bed, which I never did before. That's when I began to feel it. It wasn't sound. It wasn't movement. It was presence. Like standing in a quiet room and suddenly realizing someone else is breathing behind you. One night, I woke up at 3:17 sharp. I couldn't move. The lamp was still on, casting weak yellow light across the room. And I was certain, absolutely certain, I wasn't alone. That night, everything felt different the moment I opened my eyes. The air was heavier, like the room itself was holding its breath. I was paralyzed again. I knew the feeling by now, the weight in my limbs, the numbness in my fingers. But this time, my eyes were open from the start, and they were pointed directly at the foot of my bed. That's when I saw it. It wasn't a shadow. Not some shape my brain made up out of half-light and panic. It was there, standing still, right at the edge of the mattress, not moving, not swaying, just watching. Its outline was human, but not right. Too tall, shoulders too narrow. Like someone had drawn a person from memory and gotten the proportions slightly wrong. The worst part? It didn't do anything. It didn't lunge. It didn't make a sound. It just stood there, as if it had all the time in the world to watch me realize I couldn't move. I don't remember falling back asleep, When I finally woke up, the room was empty. The lamp was still on. Nothing was out of place. But my sheets were twisted, soaked in sweat, and I had this throbbing ache in my chest, like I'd been holding terror inside me all night. And even though it was gone, I knew it had been real. After I saw it, the room changed. Or maybe I did. Either way, I no longer felt safe, not even during the day. At first, I thought I was just shaken. It made sense to be paranoid after what I saw. But then the small things started. I'd hear faint clicks from the closet, even when it was empty. My bathroom door creaked open slowly while I was brushing my teeth. I told myself it was air pressure, even though the windows were shut. Then things began to move. A cup I left on the nightstand would be across the room when I woke up. My phone charger, always plugged in, started ending up on the floor. I'd lock my door at night, but some mornings it would be cracked open, just slightly. I stopped using my bedroom. I started crashing on the couch with the TV on low volume, hoping the noise would drown out the fear. But no matter where I slept, I still woke up at 3:17 a.m. every time. And every time, I felt it. Even fully awake, even with lights on, I could sense the change in the air. That dense stillness. That awful certainty that I was no longer alone. I stopped asking myself what it was. I started wondering when it would come back. I started sleeping in different rooms. Sometimes the couch, sometimes the floor. Once I even dozed off sitting upright in my car. It didn't matter. No matter where I was, it found me. And always at 3:17, I began losing track of what was real. I'd wake up thinking I was free, only to find I couldn't move again. I started having dreams where I thought I was awake, only to realize I was paralyzed inside them. The boundary between sleep and waking life blurred until it meant nothing. One night, I forced myself to stay up. I left all the lights on, made coffee, walked around the apartment. I was determined to see 3:17 pass with my eyes open. At exactly 3:16, I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the digital clock. The second it changed, my entire body locked. I didn't close my eyes. I didn't fall asleep, but I couldn't move. The room felt like it dropped in temperature. My vision tunneled. And then, slowly, I saw it. Same figure, same posture. Standing at the foot of the bed. Only this time, it wasn't just watching. It was leaning forward, one step closer than before. Closer than I had ever let it get. And all I could do was wait. Because if I wasn't asleep, I wasn't sure I'd ever wake up. If you've ever gone through something similar, or know someone who has, leave a comment below. Sometimes, just telling it is already a way to protect yourself. And if this video made you think twice before letting your guard down, then it was already worth it. Here, we don't tell stories to entertain. We tell them to warn. Because real fear doesn't jump scare you. It silences. It freezes. And if you want to keep hearing stories that might help keep you alive, subscribe. The next story could be yours.